Nice. I think just two of us today. I think just two of us. That's it. Not the first week. Say something for you. Okay, I think just wait a few more minutes and then we get started. Yep. Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
HiSec Buyback offers a 90% GDA anywhere in HiSec. Simply go to hisec.evebuyback.com, appraise your items, create a contract, and get paid quickly.
Welcome to Talking Stations. Today is Wednesday, January 19th. I'm your host, Shen, alongside our engineer slash panelist, Nick Bison.
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully, you can hear me all right. The screen looks dark.
Yeah. So today is Wednesday, so we're gonna go over lots of war updates and battle reports. So last week we didn't go over any of that. Uh, the reason being we had two MERs dropped on the same day, so we figured out that those two takes much higher priority than some of the war updates. So today we're gonna have a long one, cover lots of areas. Also with a bonus, the kill mail that just happened today. One of the AT ships, the AT version of the Nemesis, I think it's called the Virtue. Uh, just one of them just died today in Wormhole, and then we'll cover that as well from today. So the first one I'm going to start off with is also happened in Wormhole. So this is, I think, during one of the evictions that happened. So we can see it. I don't know. First of all, I would say this first. I'm not a big wormhole guy. I've traveled within wormholes, but I never lived in one. So that's just some of my observations between some of the battles. So on one side we can see is Singularity Syndicate, and on the other is Whole Control. So this looks like it's over a 40 star. That's what we're seeing in 40 star uh, on there. But I think later on that 40 star was killed. And a simple reason is all the defense fleet on the whole control side was killed. So we're seeing a kill of a Zenitra, which is always a special kill mail. All right, Zenitra being the Triglavian Dreadout, you rarely see them being used in known space and even in some wormhole spaces as well. So the fact that we're seeing two on grid, but one of them is getting killed, that's kind of rare. So this Zentra's buffer fit, as you can see, three of those Concord plates, and it's basically like what we call normally a dread bomb fit, but this time it's on Zenitra, which is a special thing to see. Uh, so alongside with the Nitra, there's also some other caps also on grid as well. So we're seeing Phoenix, Apostle, Leaf. So that's basically like armor uh, subcap doctrine. So if we go down, we can see the Balgorns, Vindicator, all of them, and then some Typhoons as well for structure defending. So for Typhoons, people who don't know, they're really great at structure defending, just because the fact that they can shoot a long range without moving too much, and tracking is never a problem for them because of the special thing of missiles. So on the other side, we're seeing a lot more caps committed. This time, seeing a few more Phoenix. So four Phoenixes. I think four Nagafar as well. With Apostle on the BR. I believe there'll be more than just one, but we're just seeing one on the BR, and also one Zenitra as well from the left side of the BR. So this time, Singularity Syndicate brought in their Legion fleet alongside some Damnations for boost. Yeah, so I think this is just one of the eviction battles. Yeah, I mean, I'll one day maybe we can have a wormhole expert talking about some of the wormhole situations now happening, some of the more used doctrines, I would say, in those evictions, and why I think sometimes the Nitra is committed on grid because a lot of times with from the recent some of the most recent kills of the Zenitra, they all happened in wormholes. A lot of them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. So that's in wormhole, and the second one we're going to move our attention down south. So as people may know that the whole AOM thing happened. So right now in down south in the Esoteria and the Faith Paragon Soul and the Faith of Ballas region, uh, alliances are changing, and we're going to see a lot of movement between those alliances. So which means that people like Fire will take advantage of that and trying to take some space. And here we have a battle happening in TR07, which is the system in Faith Ballas that's adjacent to Esoteria. So this is a battle. that happened, I think, relatively close to the gate or something like that. Not too much remember too much of the details. So basically, on one side is on the left side, I should say, it's Imperium side. We see the Initiative, Gunsworn, Sebastian, all those people. On the right side is a mixture of a lot of alliances, but what we will see is the ex-Papi alliances, right? Test, Fire Coalition, Pandemic Horde, all those people. So on the left side, we're seeing carriers committed on grid versus a bunch of subcaps.
Oh,
So
looks like they
uh,
found Razor.
yeah, Razor is part of Fireco, I think. Yeah. So with all of this, of course, their losses will be much lower, right? With all those carriers on grid. So on the uh, X-Pappy side, like or Fireco side, they didn't bring their dread bomb to the fight, right? If they did, maybe they could take some of the carriers, but in this case, I think they're meaningfully just ate those damages. Uh, yeah, yeah. So we're
That's
seeing
a lot of carriers
a
that
lot of carriers
brought in.
there.
That's pretty impressive. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays caps on grid is something special itself, right? With the prices of them going up like crazy, uh, I mean, smaller groups, I don't think they're sometimes they can't even afford to replace them. So it's nice to see some caps in actions nowadays.
That is impressive. I mean, just the sheer number of carriers, I like it. That's pretty. They brought the rain this time, that's for sure. That's
Yeah.
also one
So
of the
yeah,
other
see,
things you mentioned is that this is right on the on the entrance to Esoteria. It's also just a couple jumps to the entrance to Impasse, so it's a good spot.
yeah, and it's one of the key systems as well in the region. Uh, so yeah, so with those many carriers, we can also basically see that in its deployment to Esoteria, the fact they even brought in their carrier fleets to there, and it's a decent number. It's a really good number actually from in it as well, right? 400 plus from just one alliance in this region. Yeah. So moving on to the next one, we have Fisabalas in AZN. Similar stuff. It's basically between so with a lot of fights, right? I mean, I don't want to really repeat myself, but it's between Farco and Imperium, mainly, and it just happens in Fisabalas. Well, a few reasons or some simple reasons. One of them is that uh, basically right now, if you look at the map in Esoteria and in Paragon Soul, there are a lot of RMC alliances, that's Red Menace Coalition alliances, are moving into Esoteria. So while they're getting secured, the Fireco really want to push in, and their chances or what they're taking right now is the northern part of Faith of Ballas, which is what you're seeing is which is TR07 and AZN and around that area, and that will be like a key war theater that we're going to see lots of actions happening over uh, during the next couple of weeks, I would say, and maybe even lasting until a few months. Uh, with the clashes we're seeing already, with those many carriers committed on grid, maybe potentially one day we're gonna see Fireco bring in their dread bomb fleets and actually dread bomb in the Imperium ones, or maybe there'll be super caps escalation, right? Those kind of big battles that we used to hear, right? Those hundreds of Titans battles. They all started with this kind of escalations, right? With between started with subcaps, and then escalated to, let's say, carriers or some Howard dreads, and then dread bomb, super carriers, and then let's say Titans on grid, right? It escalates bigger and bigger, and that's how like fights and bigger and larger and larger value of BRs that we're seeing uh, over the days and the weeks.
Yeah, this one in particular is looks almost exclusively a subcap scuffle. Numbers are a little bit lower, but still fielding good numbers, and again, initiative showing up. bring in their folks. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of initiative presence alongside helping with RMC, and sometimes we're seeing RC as well going around in the region. Uh, so, I mean, we also from the last battle reports that we've seen, the Horde and Test are both involved. I wouldn't say very heavily, but they are taking their parts in those battles, bringing decent numbers to the fight. So, I mean, with tension brewing like this, uh, if number allows, if resources allows, maybe again we're gonna see bigger and bigger fights.
All right, looking
Yeah.
good. Yep.
So looking good. So that's happening in Fifth Valley in AZN. Next, we're going to move our attention to Scalding Pass. So Scalding Pass, well, it's not technically in the south, or like as southeast as Fifth Valley and the other uh, systems are, but they're Scalding Pass. What I would consider is also part of the more southern um, regions. So in here, we're seeing again clashes between Imperium and basically Axe Pappy. This time is also Fireco. So a lot of time we're seeing Fireco appearances in those places. And this time, its objective is a Fortizar Hull Timer. How can I tell? Well, we're seeing the killman of that Fortizar here on the BR.
You know, in
So
these last three we've looked at with the Imperium and their folks pushing, they've been dishing out better than more than they've been taking. So they're on a roll right now, doing pretty damn good.
yeah, and also bringing very, very good numbers as well. I think with the network jump bridges in Delph and in lots of the Imperium um, uh, home regions, I think reinforcements can come in at the very good pace, which means that if needed, they can bring a lot higher numbers than the other side. So here we're seeing Serb fleet versus the Minion fleet, and the Serb fleet eventually also took out the Fortizar. So, I mean, the battle between the two big coalitions, right, Fireco and Imperium, is not only happening with Bullet, but it happens elsewhere as well, right? So we are seeing that tensions are brewing, but not only one places. So it's will be interesting to not only keep our eyes in Fifth Bullet, but in other places as well. Uh, yeah. So the thing with Scouting Pass, for people who don't know, is that it's connected to Curse, which is one of the areas I think Imperium has one of their six, I believe, deployed to those areas, and there with Curse being an NPC station or NPC region, uh, that they have a lot of safe spots right in those stations where nobody can take those stations out. So they can easily camp in a large fleet, right, waiting for some big timers, or create some timers with those fleets.
Yeah, it's a lot of NPC stations that are scattered throughout the Curse region, so that makes moving base capitals much easier.
Yeah, and also caps as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see if things escalate from this point in this part of the uh, region as well. Maybe it will. Maybe it's gonna be just a distraction. When tons of people were deployed or committed in Fifth Ballas, maybe we're gonna see lots of actions happening in Scalding Pass to distract Fireco from being able to focus on one place. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
we're looking at the Esoteria, Faith, Impasse, and then up here in Scaldon Pass already. So, it's definitely a widespread area. A lot of scuffling going on. Now, granted, these battle reports we went back to the 9th, so basically a week plus ago, just to illustrate that a lot of people are saying not much is happening. Yeah, a lot is happening. There's good numbers getting out there, and people are taking fights. So that's that's always good.
Yep. And so you mean even after the big war ended, at this point, almost half a year ago, actions are still happening, battles still happening in Nosec at least. So people are not getting bored from those big coalitions. They're getting fights uh, almost every day now. Yeah. So other than that, so next we're gonna uh, move on to the esoteric itself. I'm just gonna go simple with this one. It's in Q0OH, one of the more northern systems. Well, a place I used to live that I know really well is in Esoteria. So it's just another battle between Test, or this time Test leads, alongside with some Fire Code fleets against Imperium.
And again, this is like you had mentioned earlier, just a couple out from the TR-07. So this nexus here, and where they're battling, and right on the other side when you hit Faith, is all this is where we had the battles: TR-07, AZN, and now right across on the other side. So it's all happening right in that nexus area.
Yep. So this time it's actually a Baden fleet that we're seeing. Not really common, or at least that common as we used to see. But Baden is something they committed on grid against, I think, Test Munion fleet. Yeah. So just another fight. Fights are still happening. It's brewing up daily. So we can expect more in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, good numbers on both. They go, oh, it's only 80, 100 on the side, but that's still respectable for an off area.
And actually, this is kind of fight that a lot of people enjoy. Not the 250 hacks on 250 hacks fights, but those fights with only about 100 people on 100 people, right? Those fights where there's no tie dye, with little to no tie dye, and the numbers are somewhat even, and you can have a pretty good fight out of it. You can raise your heartbeat when you're actually on field and be ready to fight.
Yeah, Serb fleet, I always enjoyed watching them. They did all right this time.
Yeah. I mean, one thing with Serbs, and this I'll point out, is that they have a really big EM hole, which means that EM damage do exceptionally well to them, and Abaddons, being laser-based battleships, can or only deals EM and thermal damage. And so in this case, I think they counter it really well. But the reinforcement of Fire Code will be Test meaningfully, and Muning naturally with T2 Mimitar ships has very high EM resist. So in that case, energy weapon may not be the best option. But when they're already on grid, so there's not many choice.
Yeah, and I just pulled up one of the kill mills on one of the Serbs, so I'm assuming this is a doctrine flavor fit. But yeah, they do have an EM shield amp in there, which obviously kind of passes a make sense test. So it looks like a fairly normal fleet fit.
Yeah, just stacking EHP in the mids and putting damage mods in the low slots. And that looks like a pretty standard circuit. Usually, another thing people would do is put the overdrive in its low slot and make it like exceptionally fast with SERPs. Simple reason, SERPs don't rely on transversal, which means that no matter how fast it goes, it will always track with these missiles. So what people do is they can just go orbit the other fleets really fast and making their guns not able to track them. We're hoping more glazes instead of more penetrates. Yeah, so moving on from all the battles, I think big news to everyone over the weekend would have to be the RTAC A Keepstar. So this Keepstar, for people who are not aware, it used to belong to army of Mango, and it got transferred, and all that thing happened. If you missed that, you can watch one of the Sunday shows that we put out. Um, so basically, it got put into abandoned mode by goons, and after it's abandoned, it got killed by Imperium themselves. And with that kill mail, all of the stuff dropped. So here I will explain some of the abandoned mechanics. I think this is something that's new to a lot of people. So when a structure is abandoned, which means that the fuel has run out of the structure for about 7 days. So what I say about 7 days? Sometimes can vary. It can be very few hours. Sometimes I think up to I think a day. And after that, it's going to enter its abandoned mode. And what it would do is when the structure is killed, all of the stuff, literally everyone's stuff in that structure will pop out. So it's not just so, and there's no SSA safety even in K space, even in non space. There's not going to be any SSA safety.
And
That
everything
includes,
comes out in cans. So you
yeah,
literally have got to run around and start opening cans. And it was, I watched the live stream of it, both. Oh gosh, I think it was New Eden Post had one, and so did INN, and I had them up one on each screen, and the looting was, for lack of a better term, it was hysterical. And there was, up until I started to fall asleep, I mean, there was a number of capital ships, from Rourke's. There was a couple, I counted 4 supers popped out. And then after I crashed out, evidently considerably more came out. I don't know if anybody's posted or has a good number on the value of everything, but it's got to be, massive.
yeah. Another mechanics surrounding the abandoned Keepstar or abandoned structures is that there's no reinforcement of the timers. So what that means is it can go from 100% shield all the way to no hull. So it will go from shield to armor, choose through armor, and then it'd be hull, from hull all the way to a kill mill in one go. So there won't be any waiting for that. But the problem with that, or the bad thing about it, is you have a lot of EHP to choose through. You have lower resist compared to like a full online Keepstar, but the amount of EHP, even with that lowered Keepstar, is going to be a lot. Um, so in this case, that I believe it took about 3 hours for the fleet to actually take out this Keepstar in just one gold. So if you scroll down a little bit, we're going to see that initiative have put their super caps. So in this case, about only Titans on grid with along some of these subcaps as well. I mean, from what we're seeing, this I'll say this again. Uh, Leviathan may not be people's favorite Titan to use on big battles, but they're really great at structure bashing. So we're seeing the highest damage dealer on that battle board will be a Leviathan, uh, just because of the weapon mechanics. Missiles, when applying to structures, I think apply perfectly well, right, with a huge signature radius, and with the big missile damage on the Leviathans. A lot of times it can apply perfectly, but with the structure it can. So that's why we're seeing those huge numbers popping out at 7 million, I think, damage on the Leviathan.
Yeah, I just did a quick generate on the battle report just so we could, see just the sheer numbers of people that showed up. I mean, you know, and just tons of people showed up. I mean, it was pretty impressive to watch. And one of the things I did notice is that there was almost no fighters being used because the tie dye was already pretty heavy, and any launch and recovery action on fighters at that point, you run the risk of overloading where you're at, and it would have been good move on the attacker's part, not to do that. and run the risk of crashing your node, because then it's just gonna, you have to start over.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I mean, this case, the reason why it took 3 hours, first is the amount of HP that the Titan has to fight through, but also uh, the Titan as well. I think I don't know if that played a huge part into the role, but I think the Titan was really really bad for sure during those times. So in terms of the actual loot value, I haven't seen like a full on report from either Imperium or any side. Uh, but what we can say is on that day there are about three supers that was killed from fraternity. So what they were for fraternity were doing is that they had 40s are on grid, just looking across the Keepstar. So they have a tether point, and their pilots were in either pods or shuttles. And what they would do is literally run over to a can, see, let's say if there's a super caps, pop that up and make sure they're in a pod first, and pop that up and jump to the ship right away. And if they can jump out, if they have a signal out, they will do that right away. Well, let's say if there's enough fuel and everything, all the conditions are met. But if not, they will get killed by the Imperium, who are going to try and tackle them and not let them go.
Yeah,
So we're
I didn't see a single one get out in the time I was watching. There was a Rourke and four supers that folks had jumped into. The funny part, as it was blowing up, the Keepstar was finally going down. The number of shuttles people coming in was amazing. It was just great to watch.
Yeah. So we know that at least three supercaps were dropped, and it was killed as well on grid. I think there are a couple more rocks and then a few more caps as well. So I don't know anything about Titans or super carriers that got retrieved from the Imperium side. So we have to wait if whatever that number will be published. But it was a great amount of cans at least that got popped out, and I believe people posted somewhere that their blueprints originals uh, of let's say super caps or caps that got dropped as well from those cans.
You know, as cool as it was, I actually feel bad for like some of the folks that, you know, got, lost their stuff, because that always hurts. But it was still pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think, um, I mean, at least from what saw, like, a lot we were giving warning about this, and people were asked safety them. I guess people who left them the stuff there is people who have AFK for a while. Yeah, so that's the looting fest in Artac 8 this past Sunday. So if you want to watch the recording of that, I think Frost uh, also did a live stream on that. New Eden Post, INN, all did their live stream when this happened. It was a long live stream, I have to say. So be patient. If you want to just skip to the looting part, feel free, I will say. And also just enjoy the tie dye.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, always you love Nullsec with their tie dye, right? So speaking of Nullsec, we're not done yet. So if we move our attention away from the south, uh, away from Esoteria, away from Scalding Pass, we're gonna look at Cloud Ring. So Cloud Ring, well, a lot of system in Cloud Ring used to be owned by Triumvirate, and that has changed recently. So Triumvirate lost almost all of their uh, uh, iHubs and their sovereignties in Cloud Ring, but we're not seeing. At least I'm not sure if those alliances right now currently in Cloud Rings are either associated with Imperium or they're actually part of the Imperium. But what we know is that Triumvirate is out for sure.
Yeah, and there's still obviously up here. We're looking at a number of systems in this constellation right offside of Pure Blind that is, No iHubs down yet. And what's interesting about that is, if I'm not mistaken, Brave's right on the other side of this wall. Oh, no, my mistake. It's not Brave. Brave's over next door here by Placid. Sorry.
Yeah. So Cloud Ring is connected to Pureblind, and is also connected to Outer Ring, which is the uh, non-sec region for OR. That stands for Outer Ring extra extraction or something like that, or
Excavation, outer ring
activation.
excavation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you mentioned into Pureblind, also goes right into Fade. So you get that little triangle action because Fade goes into Pureblind on a couple of different, 3 different routes. So that's a good spot. I mean, it's got a lot of strategic options depending on what you want to do.
And it's interesting about Cloud Ring. It's always satisfied me is like the shape of it. It's just like a ring, right? You're seeing a circle. It's similar to Outer Passage, where it's just like a closed circle with all the systems. Yeah. So with
Now, I don't
this,
have any word on where Try's going or what they're doing at this time. Have you heard anything on that?
nope. I mean, I
Hey,
think maybe they're going to low sec or something. I'm not sure.
if anybody in the chat's got any update on that, let me know. Quite curious because Try's always been a good, solid group, so they ain't going away. I don't think so. They're probably going to regroup somewhere.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, Tyrant. So with that, we're gonna see a battle report that happened in Scouting Pass actually. W- so just to not get people confused, we were just about Cloud Ring and Tyrant, but this battle happened in Scouting Pass and also with Tyrant. Uh, so so this battle happened over a structure, I believe. It's going to be Athenor, and if we're gonna see on the battle report that Trevor lost a lot of things, partially due to the two caps on grid, but also they brought their T2 command battle cruiser fleet, right? The EOS fleet. So each ship is about like 600 million worth of worth, and to counter that, Imperium brought in I think their standard Munich fleet. Actually, no, wait. No, they're Ferox fleet actually. There's no Munis, there's no T2. Just Ferox fleets. And they countered them pretty well, and they lost like a decent amount of those EOSs. And again, they cost a lot, so that battle report BR didn't turn out too well, at least on the ISK side against Charmin. But the objective was accomplished. The Athenor was destroyed.
Tell you, that's an expensive Athenor because I'm a big fan of the EOS. I'm just curious how they've got them set up. So we'll take a peek at one of them. Yeah, they're pure set up for drone damage. Uh, blinged up a little bit, which is nice. But yeah, you're right. They're running about 600 mil a shot, which is not horrific for a T2 command ship.
Yeah, but what is special is like they got a fleet of them
Yeah,
going
absolutely.
together. Usually, you see this kind of number, let's say, on a fleet of zealots or demoses, and then you see one or two AOSs being there for fleet boost, and if they lost it, it's fine, just one or two of them. But this time, we're seeing them in tens, in I think dozens as well. It's gonna be a big number. It's
Yeah,
gonna be a big hit for sure.
yeah, and these things heavily plated up. So they're going to be. The EOS is already a pig when it comes to maneuverability. Slap a couple of 1600s on it, and it wallows. But its bonus to drone damage is usually is impressive. So a lot of heavy drones and sentries, and you can do some serious damage. Plus, they've got drone link augmenters across the top, so you'll get some definite over 140-kilometer range on your sentry action.
Yeah, for sure. Uses being the T2 version of the Mimerdin, I think inherited the drone bonuses, and that's where we're seeing the omnidirectional tracking link in the midst with optimal range. I think even with sentry drones, they can deal pretty far or pretty far in terms of damage. I mean, just like any other armor ships, I would say there's also that sensor damp in the midst uh, that can deal some E wards to the enemy ships. But unfortunately, a big part of this was lost due to, I think they're being too slow. I think part of the reason, right, just like you said, Nick, that the maneuverability of those ships not the greatest, and plus they don't really have a micro jump drive on them as well, so they can't just jump around. They only have a micro warp drive.
And one of the, even though I'm a big armor fan, one of the downsides of armor is, you know, your damage mods, whether it's drone or guns, are low slot, and that's also where your tank's at. So you really got to make some interesting decisions based on your numbers and who you think you're fighting. So, yeah, I mean, this fit is good. There's just no way around it, especially when you get that many of them together. That's just a heck of a good deal. But it's just tough when you can't when your mods when your damage and your tank are both in your lows. Makes it a little tougher.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing with shield ships where they don't need to choose between that. But what shield ship is missing, the armor ship does advantage of is a U war in the mid slots because their mid slots is free. It's one trauma sometimes to, but rest of
Oop, I
them
lost you for a sec. Say it again, man.
can be either the thing with what we can either see with the armor ships is that it has good applications usually with the mid slots, but also carrying a EOR as well.
All right. Now, the fun one.
The fun thing about tonight's appetite is the Virtus. So this is a stealth bomber, one of the 80 ships that's granted in 80. What do you know?
I don't know which AT it came out of, but yeah, Virtuoso, uh, AT ship. Probably, and it's killed out in wormhole spaces, you can tell. Um, you know, fit very well. I mean, obviously, an AT ship, you're not going to slack on it. Um, we don't know the circumstances. I'm betting that Von Hole got another one, because that seems to be his motif is to hunt AT ships. So, but this is impressive. I mean, it's you know, almost 700 billion worth.
Yeah, so I just searched it up. So the Virtusu is granted in Alliance Tournament XV, so I assume that's Alliance Tournament 9. Uh, so with this, I mean, this is stealth bomber. So the base of the ship is a Nemesis. So it does have bonuses from the Nemesis for the torpedoes. But what's interesting on the ship, if you look at the high slots, is that it actually has a blaster, a small blaster on it. The reason for that is the roll bonus of the ship. So it has a 300% bonus to small hybrid turret damage, and it's a 10% tracking for every level of Galactic frigate. So, so that makes this ship first of all a cover ops, which means I can fit the T2 cloak, uh, a torpedo user, right, with the other bonuses from the Mimitar uh, frigate. Actually, no, also from the Galactic frigate. So it has bonuses both to torpedoes and blasters. But also, if you look at the mids, it also has bonuses to webs as well. So yes, bonuses basically to everything possibly you can think about for a PvP fight, right? You can apply to both heavy and big and small ships. That's where we're seeing a variety of weapons, a variety of E-words here. It's definitely an interesting ship. If I get a chance one day, I'll maybe try to fly one.
Yeah, and I mean, 6 of the mods on here are abyssal mods. So you can pretty much guarantee they're well rolled. I doubt they're going to put anything slacking on this ship. But I'm curious how many, you scroll down to the bottom, how many people are involved in the kill?
Only 6.
Not a whole lot. Yeah, this is kind of screams Von Hole, but I just don't know for sure.
Maybe one of his elves, you never know. Uh, Also, we're seeing. Okay, this is just my observation on this. A low Q with a is that a beam laser on there?
I'm
The
sorry,
second
say it
one.
again.
A low key with a beam laser fitted. If you look at the second person,
Oh,
Frederick
yeah.
Wormhole. Yeah, it's interesting to see low key with beam laser. Oh no, it's the one above that.
Yeah, yeah. Just checking them both out.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Uh, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a frigate, so it's pretty easy to get killed with those low keys for sure.
There we go. There's confirmation.
Yeah. So I mean, with 80 ships, again, these ships were prizes of the Lions tournament, which means that each one of them being lost, the value of the others will go up substantially, right? So, uh, I mean, the the lower the number, the higher the price. So with one loss like this, price of the other may just go up even higher than what the crazy price of them is already at.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate this is, but saying it's 151 bill destroyed, but 695 bill dropped. Oh, that's million. Sorry, I was off a decimal. Scared myself. Sorry.
Oh, uh, just to correct, XV is 8. This is 8015, not 89. So it's just 8015 as a price.
AT15. Okay, hey, Jobu, thanks, man.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks to chat. Um, yeah.
And
So
Cloud Cap, thanks for the correction there, bud. I was reading them wrong.
yeah. I mean, mm, I think it's just a special case. I mean, if this has happened in low sec or null sec, I think it's more clear to us what happened. But a wormhole, it can happen basically anywhere, right? You're not seeing if it's on a gate or is it outside of the station or anything like that. Uh, but yeah, I think more evidence that we're going to see over the coming week or even days that maybe it's going to make things clear and we can say more things about it. Maybe on Sunday show, maybe next time on Wednesday show. Yeah. Uh, so is there anything else you want to cover today, Nick?
No, I'm kind of clean on that. Hey, appreciate the folks in the chat correcting us on a couple of those points. Appreciate it. Just lets me know somebody's actually reading. Uh,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I guess we can wrap up. Uh, so today was Wednesday, January 19th. I'm your host Shen with our engineer slash panelist Nick Bison. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for stopping in.
Sure, sounds good. I think we did pretty well today. A little bit short on time, but hey, that's what we got. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, hopefully things happen over the coming week. We'll see.